This an all-out blitz. Real hard hits, them other podcast trash, we gon' make them all quit. We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you wanna score, but our D gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's, our profession. No complaining, just training, you see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows, we get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Welcome again to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast by Fan Battle Sports Network. I'm your host tonight, Matthew Briggs. As always, we have a special guest. We are super pumped about this one. But before we introduce him, let me introduce you, my little big brother, Mr. VT.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
And guys, usually we have Crenshaw, but he can't be with us, so hopefully he'll jump on later on. But guys, if you listen to ESPN 97.5 in Houston, Texas, in the morning show, and let's follow up on some NFL draft. You know this guy very well. We got Mr. Lance. I hope I don't murder your last name, Zierlein.
That's it. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lance, before we move on, every time I look for Texans news or NFL news, I kind of yours are one of the first pages I look on Twitter. And I always see that pinned post about your boys playing some playoff basketball.
Right.
So you got to tell me who won.
Well, the big one won, and the big one's still winning. Although he hit a growth spurt, so you might not recognize him anymore. He's kind of leaned out, and he's about 6'2" now. So the other one is still a little smaller. He hasn't hit his growth spurt, so it's kind of a blowout now.
All right. I always get a kick out of it. We're like, all right, I got to break this up.
They're still fighting to this day. I mean, some things haven't changed.
That's how I have a brother that's 5 years older than me, and that's how to this day we can't even play Monopoly with each other because it's so
competitive.
Well, how you like the NFL so far? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a different, that question's kind of wide open because I have Texans stuff that I pay attention to, and then I have, the rest of the NFL. I kind of compartmentalize them. I think Aaron Rodgers going down made it a little less exciting. I was really, really, as a football fan, excited to see how he would do with that defense and Garrett Wilson and what that would look like in that division with Tua and Josh Allen. So, that was a little disappointing for me. I think Joe Burrow being beat up right now, having that right calf, also kind of has taken some of the excitement out of the AFC for now, at least for now. But, Dallas looks really good. The Eagles look good. San Francisco 49ers don't look like they missed a beat. So I think overall it's a pretty good start. It's unfortunate about, some of the running back injuries we've seen, but getting to the Texans, I think this is kind of how I thought it would go. I did think they'd beat the Colts, to be honest. I thought they'd beat the Colts, and then, they just got beat up front. They just aren't ready to take on. The Colts are playing bully ball again, and that's what they do best is when their offensive line's getting after you. And they had a really good game against the Texans the other day. I know they're very happy with how their O-line was playing in camp and how they're coming out right now. So, this really isn't a big surprise to me. I told everyone who would listen, I thought the Texans would get off to a little bit of a slow start. It would take some time. There's still pieces to integrate defensively. I think some of the safeties missing, the offensive line missing, it does you no good. And I don't know. I saw Texans fans some of them panic a little bit after the game. To me, this is just part of the process. The end goal is way beyond where you are right now. So it's a process, and I saw some things I like. And I mean, and I think that the Texans are headed in the right direction, but there's some big speed bumps that have to be taken care of. But I don't know that they will be until players are healthy up front.
Right. I mean, that's the big thing, right? We were out learning. I've been saying we were a learning tunnel away from winning because Josh Jones that sacked caused a fumble. He also caused
as well as a
touchdown.
penalty.
And, caused a penalty. Go back. I think if Tunsil was in there, I think we're either very, very close to winning or win the game. Josh Jones, kind of hurt us on the line. So I'm glad you're here because everybody says you're the line expert. If you say something about the line, you're the guy to listen to. So what can we do to get this run game going? Because man, it's been atrocious.
Yeah, it was better last year. I think the first thing you have to do is get your starters back. First and foremost, you got to have – I think Josh Jones can play okay at the left guard position. He's a swing tackle at best, and you just don't want him out at left tackle, not against guys that the Colts have. So I think Josh Jones getting better, getting to left – I mean, Josh Jones playing at left guard. Laramie maybe plays this week at left tackle. Eventually you'll have Juice Scruggs probably at center, but could be at left guard if they like Patterson enough at center, when he's healthy. And then right guard is Shaq, you know who he is. And then Titus Howard is a big upgrade. So I think, getting your tackles right and then getting Juice Scruggs back, who's a very physical blocker. He is a very strong person at the point of attack, which is not always what you see from zone scheme teams. That outside zone stuff is usually about quickness, and finesse and footwork, and it's less about pure power at the point of attack. But Juice Scruggs has that, which is why I was kind of surprised the Texans drafted him, because he's not really a classic outside zone offensive lineman. But I think the running game will get going when Scruggs gets back, when Howard gets back, and when you have the continuity of the same offensive line. These guys playing right now, they haven't played together. I mean, they didn't even play a preseason game together. So in this offense, it's a lot about a trust of how guys are going to get blocked, what you're going to do against different fronts. And then I think, right now, one of the things I'm seeing is I think that Dameon Pierce is a little less certain as a runner getting downhill. I think he's kind of looking for clear points of entry, and you're just not going to find that right now. So I think he needs to trust the blocks will be there and hit it downhill. And even if it's not, he's got that momentum to crash through some tackles.
Right.
Let me ask you a question about Shaq Mason. Have you actually been happy with his performance? Because I have not, particularly in the run game. It seems like he's been soft. He hasn't been who I thought he was. When he was at the Patriots, Tampa, and stuff like that. So, the thing is, we extended him sight unseen. Do you think this is largely because we don't have all the other pieces around him, or do you think there is a fear that he may not be who we thought he was?
Well, they run a pretty varied running game scheme, so he should fit in with the Texans. It should be okay. And then he played in a scheme that had a lot of zone stuff where he had to move laterally when he was in college. So I'm not worried about a schematic fit. I just think that he has to really get comfortable playing next to the guys that he's next to, and he's playing next to backups to the left of him, back up to the right of him. I think that's part of it. The other thing is the guy just has to execute. Like, he's got to be better about staying on his blocks, about being a sticky blocker who doesn't allow players to come off of him. And because of his size, he's got decent arm length for his size. He's shorter, but he's got to really get into guys first, and I think be more aggressive at the point of attack to really take care of the first phase of the block. The first phase is getting into the block in good position. The second phase is sustaining. The third phase is finishing. And to me right now, he's kind of losing in the first phase a little too often.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you mentioned maybe moving Patterson to the left guard. In my opinion, I think he's playing very well at the center position. Could that be a possibility that Patterson move? Because I am big Scrooge.
Yeah, Patterson could 100% be safety, a center, and Drew Scruggs could be a guard 100% because he played at Penn State center guard. So I think there's a real possibility. If you're smart at center, it's a very important trait, is a smart center who recognizes fronts, can make calls, can get guys in the position they need to be. And Patterson's known as one of those guys. So if Patterson really can if he can do that, and you play Juice Scruggs at left guard, that might be your future offensive line at those two positions, because I don't think Kenyon Green is guaranteed any kind of spot right now. He's going to have to earn it back because it's just not – it hasn't clicked. It didn't click for him this year. He's going to be out all year. And, man, I'm telling you, Patterson plays average to above average as a rookie, and you have Juice Scruggs come back and he plays physically at the point of attack as a left guard, if they choose to do that, that could be your center left guard of the future.
BT can be a witness to this. I've been a Juice Scruggs guy since we got him. I think he's probably one of the low-key best pickups we got. So I think, and I also wanted Patterson, and I was kind of surprised he went, in the 6th round. Mm-hmm. I was really shocked. So I'm glad that we got both of them. So hopefully we can make it a tandem. I mean, that'd be great. Like you said, it's going to be hard Green to come back because the best ability is availability.
Yeah,
he's not there. So, so far with CJ Stroud's performance, like you said, we've been playing a carousel of offensive line. Rate his performance for me the last 2 games.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again?
I said with the line carousel and the turnstile, CJ Stroud's performance.
Yeah.
What do you give him with the last 2 games he's played?
I'm really happy with him. I don't mind the sacks. I think it's going to happen. I think I'd rather see him take a sack than throw an interception. Much rather him right now at this stage. If he's not comfortable, if he's not sure where to go with the ball, take your sack. I mean, in the short term, you're not going to be happy about it, but in the long term, I'd rather him be cognizant of taking care of the football than making rushed, hurried decisions that lead to turnovers. You can survive sacks. You can't really survive a bunch of turnovers. So I've been happy with him. I think he's, watching him out of college, I thought he was clearly the most accurate quarterback that I studied of all the quarterbacks. When I talk about accuracy, it's placing the ball with the wide receivers in stride. So they catch it in stride. They don't have to break stride. It's putting them on their hands. It's keeping it above the waist when you can. It's throwing swing passes or hitch routes to receivers so they have a chance to, grab it and run quickly. They can transition to the run. He's doing all that well. I was at the game in a position where I could watch kind of the field develop, and I thought, there's sometimes he misses some easy throws. I mean, it's going to happen for all those rookies, but I think for the most part, CJ Stroud really threw the ball accurately and started to see the field pretty well. This is an offense in a passing scheme that is really quarterback friendly. It allows quarterbacks, because it works off of levels, it's a levels passing attack. It allows them to make high-low reads, and it allows them to throw into space rather than trying to throw into tight windows. So I think it's a very beneficial scheme to a quarterback, which is why I thought, even though CJ, I think, will take some time to get where he needs to be, I do think this is the kind of offense he needs to be in. And I've been happy with what I've seen. I am not worried about him up to this point. We're 2 games in, but he looks like one of the bright spots to me.
Let me ask a question about CJ, and this also is like a question for CJ and Slowick at the same time. So what I do like about the difference between week 1 and week 2 Slowick is that what you said, like particularly on the blitz packages, he's been putting basically his 1 and 2 in the same line of vision, which he didn't necessarily do in week 1. But he did do that in week 2, and I think that's partly why Nico has been so successful, because they blitzed him a lot, and he was able to hit Nico. Now, what do you think Slowick can do in terms of protecting him more? Personally, I think that they should utilize TQ a lot more as an inline blocker. But what can Slowick do to make sure that he's not getting hit 5-6 times a game?
Well, I mean, you can max protect, go run more 12 personnel, which is going to be the 2 tight end, 2 wide receiver sets. And really, it gives you a chance, depending on the alignments, like wherever Josh Allen is going to be, you can slide your protection, use the tight end on that side to really widen him out. That's one thing that you can do. You can use the other tight end. When I say max protect, you got 2 tight ends you can go with and a running back. Now you only have 2 out in the route, which is, I don't think they'll do that often. I think one of those tight ends will get out there in a route. They may leak a running back out as well. But I do think the first thing you can do is max protect and just simply have more bodies. The second thing you can do, and really the best way to protect a quarterback in this offense, is run the ball effectively. Because once you run it effectively, you stay ahead of the sticks, stay ahead of the chains a little bit, so your down and distance is manageable. But more importantly, the threat of the run allows you to sell play action, which buys you so much more time, because linebackers are freezing, defensive linemen are read reacting instead of being able to just rip up the field down rush arcs. So I think running the ball is a huge one, but you can also max protect and really get the ball out quick. Like that, the best way to protect him is having some quick throws built into the offense that CJ can get to if things get a little hairy.
Yeah.
So, but I did think that was a good observation about having the two, having wide receivers there in the sight line, because, it's almost like he's got to be a full field reader. But in this offense, a lot of times one route is just basically going to be to clear someone out, clear a safety out of the way, clear a corner, create an opening. So a lot of times in this offense, you can turn it into a half field read situation or really cut down the field, which is good for rookie quarterbacks. Frankly, it's good for a lot of quarterbacks, but it's really good for rookie quarterbacks because they think less and they're able to react more quickly to one decision they have to make, or maybe just two decisions.
Okay. Well, this whole offseason, I've been hearing if Nico Collins stays healthy in this offensive scheme, he can be a potential Pro Bowler. We're starting to see it. What's your take on Nico Collins so far?
Yeah, Nico's been great. This is who I thought Nico was when he came out of college, so it's not really a surprise to me. He's not really a fit in what O'Brien did with the, or I should say, I guess David Culley with the, that whole scheme of the quick, the short routes with the quick stops and turns. He's more of a guy who has to get the legs going. He actually has good vertical speed, so he doesn't take off fast in his first 10 yards. He's not an instant gas guy, but he's a build-up speed player. So vertically, because he's a ball winner and because he has good build-up vertical speed, he's got a chance to hit some big plays on posts and go routes. He's that guy in over routes where he can really get things going once he gets those legs rolling and opens up the hips. And because CJ is a guy who throws with good placement and hits wide receivers on stride, I think it's a great combination. He's tough. He's physical. He's not afraid to work the middle. So I've been very happy with him. I think the Texans are finally seeing the receiver that I saw at Michigan. And I think he'd benefit from having a true number one next to him, or maybe an equal number two who's a real dangerous, like a Jalen Hyatt guy would have been perfect in my opinion, because it would have really terrified safeties, and Nico would have had so much room to operate, and Tank Dell would have had room to operate. But I think Nico's showing you who he is, which is a guy that you throw him the ball, he's going to catch the ball.
And one thing I want to add is what I'm liking too is, of course, every team that sees CJ in this offensive line, they're saying blitz, 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 blitz. And I love the slants to Woods and Nico. I mean, it's just cooking them. Like you said, it gets Nico's legs running, and his yards after carry or catch is just out of this world. So, yeah, I completely agree. Go ahead, BT. What were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry about that. What I wanted to ask is, so you mentioned, right, like under a Tim Kelly scheme, you basically had Nico running those routes where he had to turn on, like they say, you turn on a turnstile, right? Like, and that could potentially hurt his knees, right? He's a long, lengthy guy. One of the things that CJ Stroud said is that Nico Collins is constantly in the training room getting worked on. And do you think that the new scheme, basically you're putting him in a situation where, if you throw in like a deep curl or something like that, or call in a deep curl, that he doesn't necessarily have to turn so much. It's easier on his ankles and easier on his legs. Do you think that is partly the reason why he got hurt in the past? And could the new scheme make him more healthy for like 15, 16, possibly 17 games?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That would be a question you'd have to check with Nico, because I really wouldn't have any idea on that one. I'm not really worried about it from it's a physical sport. So if you're having trouble running routes, I don't think you'll last very long, because it gets a lot more physical than that. I think for me, it's just about, there's certain guys that you don't want them slowing their momentum, because when they slow their momentum, they can't really burst back out of it. Like Tank Dell is a guy who can change direction and lose no speed at all. Nico Collins will lose some speed when he has to change directions. So I think the routes that you're talking about, it causes him to, how quickly can he sink at his hips and open up to the quarterback? It takes a little time to do it, to be honest with you, and that causes more tight window throws. But when you allow him to keep running and he's constantly keeping those shoulders forward, whether it's running an over route, which is, the routes are going to be typically a little more rounded, or they're going to be very precisely vertical, where he stays on a really horizontal, or rather a vertical path. That just benefits who he is as a wide receiver. Is it easier on his ankles and knees? Yeah, it might be, but I don't think that's anything that's going to, for me, that's all about treatment, is keeping him right so that he can run any routes. But the best routes are the ones that are in this offense for him.
Well, before we move on to the Jaguars and Texans game, the defense, it seemed to, after everybody's gotten a little hype because of what they did against Baltimore, kind of fell a little silent. My opinion, look, this defense is safety oriented. Like, you have to have some good safeties to run it. And, of course, they were down Ward and Petrie, and then Murray left early in the game. I think that's why they went to a lot of zone coverage, which we all know that it's easy to beat, especially with a quarterback like Gardner Minshew. So, Lance, give me your opinion on what went wrong on that defense.
Well, I thought you just got your ass kicked up front, first and foremost. They had no doubt that they could run the ball on the Texans. Now, it's not like they just ran it all day long. I thought that they did a nice job of keeping Gardner Minshew in rhythm. It was really, even though Anthony Richardson has scored a couple times, as soon as I saw Minshew, I'm like, man, this is actually the worst-case scenario in a way for the Texans, because he's a guy that's going to just stay on track. He's going to keep the lead. He's going to drive the train, and he's just going to manage the offense. And sure enough, there's no mistakes. Boom, boom, deliver it where it's supposed to be. Texans were getting some pressure off of the slot. They were generating pressure there, and then he just got rid of it before it became a factor. And I just thought he was the perfect addition, because just Anthony Richardson would have run into trouble. At some point, he would have run into some trouble. He would have made mental mistakes. Gardner Minshew, I didn't see many mental mistakes from him. But with that said, I didn't love the fact that the Colts could stay in good down and distance much of the time, because the linebackers played poorly. I don't think they're getting their run fits very well. D'Amico talked about that this week, that they're not where they're supposed to be. And that's a big problem. Like, you've got to play ahead of the blocking scheme. You got to recognize blocking scheme, get downhill, and play ahead of what the blocking scheme is doing. And I think too many times, really over the last 4 years, linebackers get caught behind blocks. They get their play side shoulder covered up. They get climbed up on top of by climbing centers and guards, instead of them getting downhill and initiating the contact. So I think right now it starts with more physicality from your defensive line, and then the linebackers have got to fit their run fits better, and they got to be in position a lot more. Now, the safety stuff is 100% true. You got a chance. You got some talented safeties that will make a big difference. But being in man coverage would have been much, much better against Gardner Minshew, because you would have forced him, to make tighter throws, and he just ate that zone up.
Oh yeah, most of that. And also, Petrie, he's been a leader when it comes to rushing. It seems like he knows what gap to hit. Right, well, like you said, get really into those. Yeah. So if we have Petrie, it would have been great. But injuries happen. Speaking of injuries, coming to the Texans and Jags game, last we heard, Ward is playing, Tunsil is playing, and one more. Who was it, VT?
Well, it was Tunsil, Stroud, and Ward, right? So
yeah,
all three of them, all of them playing, but Denzel Perryman has been added to the injury report.
Right. And Petrie has not.
And he didn't practice.
Yeah, and he didn't practice. So, Lance, is there any players we'd be concerned that might not play this week?
No, I think you got to get your safeties healthy as quickly as you can, which is key, and then you got to get both tackles as healthy as you can. And obviously, right tackle is going to be a while. So, just really having Laramie Tunsil out there, I think, is going to allow C.J. Stroud to feel much more comfortable. This guy was under duress most of the game, and he threw for 384 yards. That's one of the things I saw was mental toughness and an ability not to break down and make mistakes. Now, I saw people talk about garbage time stats, this, that, and the other. Yeah, there's going to be some element of that when you're way behind. But what I care about is, did he keep playing? Did he Did he find the players he was supposed to find, the wide receivers? Like, how did he play? And I thought he played pretty well for much of the game. I think he did what he had to do, especially in light of the fact that they didn't have their offensive line healthy. So having a left tackle, one of the better left tackles in the league out there, to me, the third game is a game that you're going to be much more comfortable in than after the first two. And having Laramie there is only going to elevate that comfort level for C.J. Stroud.
Especially getting your first two touchdowns, on the board. That probably leaves a lot of pressure, right? So hopefully, hopefully that keeps continuing. Graylin Arnold is replacing Tavierre Thomas at nickelback. Is that something we could be concerned about, or do you think he will fit right in at that process?
I think he'll fit in, but he's got some speed issues. So I think that will be interesting to see. He's a really instinctive player. He's a player who I think has good instinct. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him make plays on the ball, have a pass deflection, maybe even grab an interception in the game, because he really sees the field well. There's just some question about how well he runs. So that's one thing you got to keep an eye on is I'm sure that the scouting department from Jacksonville remembers that when they watched him, and it's something that they'll throw out there to their offensive coaches that, hey, we may want to attack Arnold because we didn't think he was a very fast guy coming out. So that's something to keep an eye on, is if he gets manned up in a situation where there's a player taking him vertically, that's something to keep your eye on.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you can keep him man too much. I mean, he was more of a safety to me than a corner. But obviously with Thomas out, I understand why they got to play him. I hate saying this, but I'm playing Christian Kirk in fantasy because I don't really have that much trust on Arnold. What I would like to know, though, is what do you think will happen with Ridley? Do you think Sting can clamp him down, or do you think that I just want to know your overall opinion between the Sting over Christian Kirk, and how do you think Nelson will perform on here? Because we do have two really damn good corners, even though our safeties are questionable at this point.
I think, based on the way Ridley plays, I think Nelson actually is the better matchup on him, because Nelson can beat you up at the point of attack and kind of jam you and slow you down a little bit, and he's a little more loose hipped. Stingley is the more talented of the two corners. But Stingley, one of the issues with Stingley is he likes to stay on a vertical plane. So if you're going to try to play down the field, or Stingley would play well defensively against an offense like the Texans. That's the kind of corner position he plays. I think once you get with a really slippery route runner like Calvin Ridley, who has great burst out of his breaks, that's going to be the real challenge. Is how do the Texans, how do they play Stingley? Is it going to be kind of literally a bump and run with him? Or is he going to try to pedal out of that and open his hips? Like, what technique are they going to use? Because I think, you may have to play some side shuffle, maybe even some covered three looks where you're feeding them into the safety. I think D'Amico, one of the things that should be fun is the chess match with D'Amico Ryans setting up his defense to handle the Lawrence to Ridley combination. Obviously, last week the Falcons took it away. He went 1 billion times to Christian Kirk. I think this week they will try to get Ridley back involved. So it's going to be interesting to see who's covering him and then what kind of technique and coverages they're using, because I think there's specific coverage techniques that really benefit Stingley as it pertains to covering a player like Ridley, who's lanky but really, really quick out of his breaks.
All right. Will Anderson had a great game week 1, not so week 2. He's going against a weaker line against the Jaguars. Do you see big things coming from Anderson this week, or kind of quiet again?
Yeah, I do. I don't know that the stats will all be there because, and D'Amico talked about this, Trevor Lawrence gets rid of the ball very, very quickly. So he doesn't, he's quick to get rid of it. It may not turn into a bunch of sacks. He's mobile in the pocket and outside the pocket. Right. But I think Will Anderson, to your point, I do think there's a matchup advantage that Will Anderson has against the offensive line. I do think we'll see Will use that spin move and use some of the hand fighting he has to get quicker access. I mean, Colts did a great job against him last week. Bernard Raymond was excellent against him. But this game, I think, is one where we should see Will Anderson have a little bit of a comeback game. We notice him in the pocket a lot more than last week.
Yeah, and I think too, with him being disrupted, opens up ways for Gennard, like he did with that sack against Baltimore, and Jerry Hughes. So hopefully, with him being disruptive, causes those two on the other side
Yeah.
to get free and wild. So Lance, what is the key ways to win this game against the Jaguars? It's going to be tough, but what do you think we have to do to win it?
Well, they've matched up with the Jaguars pretty well during their history, and of course in recent history as well. So I think when you look at how they won against the Jaguars or really competed, they've been able to run the football. We know that was that incredible run last year with Dameon Pierce. Was that Jaguars that he did it against?
Yep.
I think it was, yeah. So, he played at Florida. He may have a little extra something going on. I know he's going to want to prove who he is and what he's about. So I think you're going to see a very aggressive outing from Dameon Pierce. And the key for winning to me is the running game has to get going. It starts with the running game has to get going. And then second, I think you have to get Tank Dell involved in this one because we saw what he was capable of doing last game. Tank Dell allows you to play quickly. He allows the quick throws because of his ability in the slot to get to choice routes very, very quickly, and it will take some of the pressure off that offensive line. So run the ball, get Tank Dell involved early in the game so that CJ can throw the ball quickly and get into a rhythm. And then defensively, I think the real key in this one is going to be how the Texans stop the run. Travis Etienne can – he will hit you with explosive plays out of the backfield and on the ground. And so being able to keep Tank Bigsby, the physical back, and Travis Etienne, the explosive back that does have some power as well, you cannot let those guys set the tone because once that happens, the Jaguars will control the pace like a soccer team who maintains possession of the ball for 75% of the time and a half. It's you can't do that on the road. You can't let a team have that type of advantage unless you're going to win a turnover battle.
All right. Before I get VT's prediction, what do you think the score will be if you do this?
Yeah, I still like Jacksonville in this one. I think it's going to be something in the neighborhood of 27-21. I think the offense for the Texans actually I'll say 27-20. I think the offense for the Texans will show a little bit of life. I know last week they had 20 last week, but I think people are going to be happy with the progression of the Texans offense. And even though Jacksonville's got a pretty salty defense, Kansas City couldn't do a whole lot. I think Jacksonville may be a little down. I think after that big game last week, you could catch them a little flat and jump on them early. So don't be surprised to see the Texans jump out and maybe grab a quick lead. But I don't think they're ready to hang on to those just yet.
Okay. BT, what's the keys to win this game?
So I think the key to this game is I wish I could say the run game, but I don't know if this offensive line can really help Dameon Pierce at all. And as you said before, Lance, it doesn't seem like he is just running through. Like he's waiting, and so he has been able to not even get 4 yards per carry. It's like 3.5 or 3 yards per carry. So Stingley is even worse. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the game, run the ball this game. And I think that if they do, perhaps they do it outside, but they're not able to run it up the gut like they have been able to do with Dameon Pierce. I think that they might continue the success that they had in the Colts and try to keep this more of a passing game. Believe it or not, we are a passing team. This is crazy. We're passing like 70% of the time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And trust me, I am all about running the ball. I think Dameon Pierce is a huge piece of this offense. But without the O-line there, and even if Tunsil comes back, Shaq Mason really hasn't proved who I want him to be yet. So as far as I'm concerned, you really only have Laramie Tunsil out there as far as a lineman that I can trust. I don't know how you run the ball, in all honesty. I think that you pass a lot. I think you do a lot of short passes. I think you use a lot of slants. I think you're right about Tank Dell. You use them on the slants. You try to get that yak. Do what you did with Nico Collins. Like I love those deep curls. I loved how Nico Collins got a ton of yak last game. And I think that that's your way of winning this. On offense. On defense, you have to get after the quarterback. And I'm not just talking about sacks. You mentioned that it's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but it's going to look at pressures. And the thing about it is Trevor Lawrence has less than a 50% completion rate when he's pressured against us, and I think that you have to keep that up. Between Jonathan Gennard and Will Anderson, I think you have to get after the quarterback. I think you got to blitz a bit more than we've been doing, although we have been blitzing. It's not like Lovie Smith that really was afraid of it, but I think you have to blitz more. Don't be afraid, because I think that the safety situation is so bad. And I know we get Ward back, but he hasn't played a game yet. And without Petrie has really been huge in both the run game and the pass game. I mean, he's really been more important than people give him credit for. In my opinion, I think he should have been an All-Pro last year, but that's not that discussion. So I think that because you don't have that safety stuff, you really have to use your front seven and risk the blitz a little bit more, because otherwise I think that he's just going to take advantage. Lawrence is going to take advantage of who we got going on, Christian Kirk. I think he's just going to force that. And if you give him just enough time, he's just going to carve you up every single time. So I think you have to blitz a bit more and get pressure off. In terms of predictions, I'm thinking this is going to be more like a 31 to 17-ish type of game. And the reason for that is because I think that they will successfully be able to exploit who we have because of injuries. It's really what it came down to. We don't have Trevor Thomas. We don't have Jalen Petrie. We don't have Hassan Ridgeway up front. Etienne had a 62-yard run against us last game. I think that because of the injuries, they'll be able to exploit those holes, and that's why their offense will be able to put up the points. And that's just unfortunate. Now that's going to change week 5, week 6 when our dudes come back healthy. But for now, yeah, the Jags have this one.
Yeah, I think Doug Peterson and finally get this team where it's going. He did a great job against the Chiefs. I thought it was going to be a blowout. I thought the Chiefs were going to walk all over them, but they played a hell of a game. The offense just couldn't get it going. So I'm going to say it's going to be a 31-14 game, Jaguars. But I think we need to get Dalton Schultz more involved, especially in the red zone. If we can get him going, things can look up. But till then, I don't know where. Lance, do you know where he's at? I mean, does it seem like he's taking a snoozer on the field, huh?
No, you got to remember now, Stroud didn't throw a lot to the tight end in college. So I think this is a lot of his throws were going to be deep. They're going to be outside the numbers. And so this is kind of a different thing for him. So I don't know if that's the reason why, but it's something to keep in mind is this is still kind of new for him because Ohio State used their tight end was used a lot of times as a wingback, sometimes as a fullback. And this is kind of new, getting used to that. But you're right. It's a great safety blanket when you have a guy like Dalton Schultz because while Tank can give you the wiggle, that's the big target that can, snatch down a 3rd and 5 and move the chains.
All right, especially in the red zone. I mean, we were so close to scoring again, and if we scored that last drive, it's a different game, right? So, we got to find him in the red zone. That's just going to help him develop a lot faster. So, Lance, man, thank you. We know you got to get going. You got a big trip ahead of you. Before you do that, why don't you tell everybody where we can find you and what you got going on so that way we can support you?
Yeah, I'm on the radio every morning from 7 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. You can also listen live if you download our app at ESPN 97.5. You can get it from the App Store, listen that way. And then I'll be starting my NFL draft, or you can follow me on Twitter at Lance Zierlein, which is there at the bottom of the screen if you need to spell it. And then my draft work will start up here in about late October to early November. I'll start writing up prospects. So that's a 5.5 to 6 month run for me. So you'll be able to read the scouting reports at NFL.com. And if you've never read them and you're interested in a player on the Texans or on Jacksonville or anybody you see, just Google the name and draft profile, and there's a pretty good chance my scouting report on that player will pop up.
Well, speaking of draft point, before I let you go, you don't have to give me a long answer, but if we pick around 8 to, say, 12, 13, because we got the Cleveland pick, and I'm estimating them to win 7, 8 games, who's the number one wide receiver that you would want the Texans to pick up for next year?
Well, I don't know the class that well yet. I mean, obviously the number one wide receiver is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So I mean, he'll be long gone because he's such
right. I'm saying in that range.
Yeah, not in that range. I don't know the class well enough yet. I don't. I try to enjoy everything before I have to get
right.
Fair enough.
I need to know who the juniors are that are coming out because I watch them for fun, but watching them for scouting is a different thing. I like to have all the reps that I can where I can watch it play after play after play after play. Because
I got you.
Scouting just doesn't. It's funny. You see guys on TV and you get excited and you hear the narratives of the announcers talking. You see the statistics, and then when you turn the tape on, if you've done it as long as I have now, you start to see things like, he's a good college player, but I don't think he's gonna be as highly regarded as everyone else thinks. So that happens a lot. So I tend to wait now until I get my hands on more tape, and then I start to develop an opinion. Probably not for another 4 to 5 weeks. At least not when I'm stacking guys like you're talking about.
No. Well, I got one quick before you go. Colorado Bills are they the real deal or flash in the pan?
No, I think the Buffs are the real deal. Real deal. So I think they'll lose at least once against Washington, UCLA, or USC, Oregon. If they lose one and win 2 of those, that's really impressive.
Game changer.
There is a chance that they could lose 2. There's a chance they could lose 3. I do think they're the real deal for the most part. I thought it was a pretty even matchup against Colorado State, and that was a 3 touchdown underdog team. So keep that in mind. Oregon's much more physical. They're bigger. USC is going to be a real challenge. They have not seen a quarterback like Caleb Williams. And then Michael Penix at Washington and the team Washington has, they're no joke. So I think the hype around Colorado is deserved, but they're getting ready to run into the teams that are more talented than they are.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Lance, well, again, man, thank you for coming on. Like I said earlier, we know you got a big trip, so safe travels, and we got to do this again. So have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
thanks a lot, Lance.
Yep. All right. Again, thank you again, Lance, for coming on. But let's kick it on some NFL news, unless you got something to say about this recap real quick, V.
I want to get to NFL news, but what I'll say is this is almost a statement to everyone on Texans Twitter, which is I understand we all want the Texans to win. Trust me, I do too. But, we are the most injured team in the NFL. We have 12 dudes on IR. We have right now, as of the first 2 games, we only had 1 starter, that's Shaq Mason. And he hasn't been all that great, and he hasn't been around other starters. We've been out our safeties. We've been on literally a 4th string safety. We have a left tackle out there that we pulled out of Walmart. Basically we were going against some of the worst situations that you can possibly imagine when it comes to injuries, not to mention a rookie head coach, rookie QB, rookie QB coach, rookie OC. These are all people that are learning on the job. The fact that we have been this successful on offense is very, very, very meaningful and hopeful. I would say that if you want to be a little angry, the defense, honestly, in my opinion, is a thing you can get most angry about, because not saying you got to get mad at D'Amico, but overall, he's a defensive genius, and the defense did not show up last week. So that's something you can kind of get angry about. We also have, Will Anderson out there, and Don Goddard is a vet. Will Anderson is a beast, and we really didn't put up the pressure that we needed to last week. To me, the defense, I can understand you getting a little upset on. But as far as the offense is rocking. Nico Collins is the 5th best wide receiver in the league by passing yards right now. The yak that he's getting is unbelievable. PFF said that we were going to have the worst wide receiver core in the league. Right? We were 32 out of 32. We got a number 5 wide receiver. The fact that
Woods is not that far behind him. He's at least 12 or 14 spots behind him. He's pretty close.
And my point is that offense is rocking, and that is not what I expected with a rookie OC and a rookie quarterback. The fact that the passing game is kicking ass is unbelievable. We do need to have the defense show up, but we are injured, so you got to give them a pass. We're probably going to lose this Jags game. It's okay. Week 5, we're coming up strong, and week 5, we might kick some ass. That's when you got to look forward to. These next couple weeks, just get the development. Go when you're watching these games, watch for the quarterback development. watch for these rookie wide receivers. Look at and defense. Look at Will Anderson. See if he shows up. See what pressure he can put on. Look at the things that we can do in order to develop these young rookies. But if you're just looking at the box score, you're not going to have a fun time until we get healthy again, guys. That's just the reality of it.
Well, not just that too. These Texans fans want instant success. They want instant 9-8, 10-7 playoff bound. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. You're going to have to watch a different team. It's going to take 2024 most likely, but for sure, it's going to be 2025. Rome wasn't built in a day. Be patient. There's going to be some speed bumps we got to even out. So just calm down, sit back, shut up, and watch some football. So exactly. I completely agree with you. Well, let's jump into some NFL news, man. All right, man. Well, look who has came to play. We got our boy, Mr. Fitzward Crenshaw. What's going on, man?
What up?
All right. Well, you jumped onto the best part, NFL news. Let's first start off with Nick Chubb. Anybody seen it live?
I did, and I'm telling you, if you haven't seen it yet, don't see it. It's gross. It's so bad. I don't ever want to see it again. It looks so bad that I honestly feel bad for him, and I literally said a prayer. I mean, like, this dude, by the way, is a great player. I know he's on the Browns, and all of us hate the Browns because, you know, Deshaun Watson, yada, yada, yada.
The man that should be not named, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Nick Chubb is awesome. Not only is he a great running back, but he's a good dude. He didn't deserve this. It's on his same knee that he had in college. I know that he's going to try to come back. He's going to have 2 separate surgeries. I hope he comes back, but honestly, I don't expect him to. And that's the sad part is I really want him to come back, man. I would love him to be comeback player of the year next year. But the fact is he's getting up there in age. He's getting up. He's going to be, 28, 29 when he finally – it's a year and a half recovery. So, like, he may not even come back next year if he wants to. He might be out for a whole 2 seasons, honestly. So I don't know if he'll ever come back, and that might be the last snap you ever saw from Nick Chubb. So appreciate his career, and so that's sad for a way to go out like that. A standard tackle. I know there were some people that were saying that it was a dirty hit. It really wasn't. There was nothing that Mika did anything wrong. Any football player would have done the same thing. It was just bad freaking luck.
All right, Crenshaw, you good hit, clean hit, or you think there was some foul intentions to it?
It was a good hit. Just unfortunate what happened. Like VT said, great running back. Behind Derrick Henry, he's been the second best running back the last 5 years.
Consistent, right?
Real consistent. I mean, you can always count on this guy to get you some yards, especially in fantasy, you know.
Right. I'm glad you brought up Derrick Henry because he runs just like him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Angry and mad for the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the best kind of run, too.
I think he was the heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns team. Because you give it to him, great things is going to happen. I mean, they got a great offensive line, so it's hard. I mean, they should miss a beat, but they picked up Kareem Hunt. The Ford guy looked at promising last week, so I got to see a couple of games to see how they're going to gel. But that's a huge loss.
Bro, their line was terrible against Pittsburgh.
Our line was horrible. They came in this year with a top 5 line, so. They're a $230 million quarterback gonna have to make some moves. He got to play better.
Crenshaw, let that man be great. He did make some moves. He did a pick 6 and a fumble for a touchdown to steal the game. Look, come on, man. Yeah, that is some big moves.
Stop! He's already dead.
Yeah. So he just got to play better. He got to play better for them to be successful and everything. But. Huge loss, man. Huge loss. I like how the rest of the NFL community was reaching out to him, saying they thoughts and prayers for him and everything. It was ugly. And, it's really bad when you see it live, Thursday night football, Monday night football, Sunday night football. That's when it's really, really bad because, you do have more eyeballs and everything. But prayers out to Nick and hope he has a speedy recovery. But I'm with VT. He might not come back from this.
I don't think it is. And
Yeah, I agree with Michael Newsom that just rare to say that, but I don't think Hunt moves the needle. But Jerome Ford looks pretty damn good. Now he's not the same type of back as Chubb at all. He's not like the bruiser type of back. But he has a bit of speed to him, man, and he looks pretty decent. So I do think that Jerome Ford is going to be a good back for them. Hunt will go out there and be the change of pace back. And so I don't think that the loss of Chubb is going to change their record. I think it's going to change how they play necessarily. But I still think that it's going to be roughly a 7-8 win team. In all honesty, I don't think they get any worse because of Nick Chubb, because Jerome Ford is
1-15 after this. 1-15.
1-15. But yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, I think it's a 7-8 win team, and for us, when it comes, that's why I asked Lance, like, what does he think about who we'll get? Because I think we'll pick on the Browns anywhere between the 8th and 12th spot, right around there. And so doesn't change the needle for me in terms of wins and losses. They're still a 7-8 win team.
Yeah. This made me start thinking, this is what's going to hurt the running backs, right? Every running back that wanted money, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Barkley, Josh Jacobs, JT's never seen the field. He's still hurt. They're all getting hurt. This is not helping the cause of running backs. This is kind of the narrative that the NFL and the owners are saying. Jim Irsay is saying is running backs are a dime a dozen. You can't stay healthy, and it sucks that Chubb got hurt the way he did. But I think that's why running backs are not getting. Because it's so brutal on their body, right? Like, who else is going full speed like Nick Chubb and running into a guy and just getting his knee taken out? It's hard for running backs, and I think that's one of the reasons why they'll never get paid as much as they're worth, and it sucks.
I mean, go ahead, Crenshaw.
You know what I think also, since if the running game does take a step back. Cause like right now, we don't know if Kareem Hunt is even in shape right now, so
Right.
he could come out and pull a hamstring first game. But I think this is going to open up the door for that $230 million quarterback to actually take more hits, and he might get hurt because they're going to have him throwing the ball more and more and more now, and the offensive line is shitty. So that's something they need to think about as well. Yeah, I mean, they need to protect him, but I don't see it because teams is really going to play them different because Chubb is not back there. Like, you could actually play them way, way different. So that man might be hurting the next couple of games, man.
Yeah.
I'll say this.
Oh no, I'm devastated.
So
I was like, hold on, what did I give him?
No, I don't know if I'm going to say the word never. Backs will never get paid. Here's what I do think. I think 5 years from now, there'll be less backs, and supply and demand, and people have to pay more backs. People have to pay backs what they're worth because there'll be less backs. That happened with OLINE, right? Like OLINE wasn't getting paid, and then the supply and demand, there weren't enough good elite linemen, and now they're getting paid $28 million, almost as much as quarterbacks were getting paid. So, I think that's going to happen. The pendulum swings in the NFL where certain positions get really lowballed, and all of a sudden people stop specializing in that, and then now they get paid again.
Right,
It's the same thing in real life.
I agree with you. I think they should get paid. Don't think I don't think they should get paid.
Oh, I hear you.
I just think that this is going to be. I mean, Jim Irsay is going to use this to his advantage, right? Like, I mean, he's like, all right, guys, so we can't pay the running backs because they can't stay healthy. Like, so that's just, it hurts their value because of all the injuries, which I agree with you. I think eventually, year 3 or 4, they'll start getting paid, but it's too late. Like, they need to be paid now, but that's another topic for another time. The next thing, we got Mr. Comeback Man himself, Josh Allen, after sucking it up against the Jets. When Aaron Rodgers went down, everybody thought, all right, this is Josh Allen's game to lose. He absolutely did. He lost it. 3 interceptions. Well, he came back against the, almost said Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, and became the AFC player of the week. Crenshaw, man, I'll start off with you. Is this the Josh Allen we know and love, or is it a fluke?
This is the seesaw, Josh Allen.
Okay.
Um,
All right. I see
yeah,
what you did there.
yeah,
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
yeah, man. I don't know what's up with Josh, man. I mean, he has been an interception machine since day one. I think VT said this. I want to say maybe our last season on this pod, maybe it's Brian Dayball. I think that's what he's missing because since that guy's been gone, he has to look different.
And Brian Dayball's missing Josh Allen in New York.
Yes, he's missing. Yeah, he's missing. Yes. I mean, last year he
Reunited.
I mean, last year he did good, but so far this season is kind of slow. But maybe I don't know. Maybe what's going on with them. But like I say, man, I still think Josh Allen is a good quarterback. I mean, I'm pretty sure 25 or 32 teams will take him as their number one quarterback right now.
Oh,
as much as we getting on him and everything. Pause. On his interceptions and everything. But we'll see.
All right, BT.
Josh Allen was my second best quarterback in the league for a very long time, frankly. Well, not a very long time, but a decent while. And last year he kind of dropped that spot, in my opinion. And Joe Burrow replaced him. And basically in my own personal list, and Josh Allen fell down a step. And so I want to see if this can continue because Josh Allen has it in him. The thing is, this is like when you want to write a book or a letter and you start out good and then you just have verbal vomit, right? And he needs to be an editor. And it's the same thing. Like sometimes you have to control yourself and you have to realize just because you can throw the ball 50 yards doesn't mean you should. And he has to edit himself. Here's what they did. This is not just Josh Allen. This is the way you play football. They actually had a run game going, and it wasn't Josh Allen leading the rushing yards. It was Cook leading the rushing yards. They actually used a running back to use the run game. Mind-blowing concept. That's the first thing you did. They played real good football instead of hero football. That is the biggest difference that they did, right? Since he was like an amazing quarterback. So now they're playing good fundamental football. Now you have an amazing hero quarterback that can do it when you need to do it in clutch situations. But what the problem is, he was doing it 24/7 as opposed to just the times you need to do it. And I think if he continues, if it's not just him, honestly, it's the coaching as well. But if they play good fundamental football, if they run the ball and only use him and running the game, like I think he only ran for like 10 yards. Not 70 or 80. Right. And I think that if they continue doing that week after week, they got a shot at getting in the AFC Championship. But if they do what they did where you have them running and throwing 50-yard bombs 3 times in a game, that's not gonna work. So hopefully he's learned his lesson because he's apologized multiple times about it. They've acknowledged the problem multiple times about it, but then they go back and he's back to the same old Josh Allen. So if he can play good fundamental football, the coaching realizes that you can't have him running every goddamn second. They got a shot.
Yeah, I still think that elbow injury is still affecting him too. Like you said last year, VT, he was really good until about week 5, week 6 when he got hurt, and then I think that elbow is still hurting him. I think you're right. I think he finally realized, hey, I got to change my game up a little bit, and that's what he's doing. Hopefully they keep it up. I like Josh Allen. I just don't think he'll ever win a Super Bowl. Two better teams in the AFC. I'm just saying, brother. I think their window's closing, especially with Brian Dayball gone. It's not looking good. But guys, in the wise words of my man Crenshaw, this is the worst part of the show, is because it's the end. BT, tell us where we can find you on social media and what you got cooking.
Yeah, you can find me at Brown Chubby Bear. I'm on Twitter a lot and have either I'm hosting a space, co-hosting a space, or part of a space talking about Texans or football about 3 to 4 times a week. So come find me and let's talk about Texans football. I haven't been writing articles recently. I've been trying to focus on social media content. Matt, you've really been writing more articles, but when I do write articles, you can find them at fanbattlesports.com.
Yeah, Mr. Crenshaw, what you got?
You can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw. I heard you guys earlier give you our predictions.
Oh yeah, my bad, bro. Go ahead.
I think we're going to lose this game as well. But I think that the offense is going to play better. I don't have a score for you, but I think we're going to get in the 20s again.
Okay. I like it. I like it. All right, guys. Yeah, make sure you check us out on Friday night as well. We got the other show on the network, Jaguars Fan Battle, coming on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern to talk some football matchup between the Texans and Jaguars. So Saturday or Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check us out. And you can find me on A1 Day One Texans. Like VT says, I've been writing some articles on Fan Battle Sports Network, www.fanbattlesports.com. So make sure you check that out. And until the next week, you can find all of our great stuff on Texans Fan Battle everywhere, every platform. Hey Siri, play the greatest Texans podcast, and we'll pop up. So until next week, we'll talk to you again. Have a good night.
This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT.